Hello, everyone. Today, we're going to tell you a story that will touch your heart, inspire your dreams, and help you improve your English listening practice. This is not just a biography. It's a journey through poverty, pain, genius, and laughter. It's the story of a man who didn't speak a word on screen, yet made the whole world laugh. A man who rose from nothing to become one of the most iconic artists of all time. This is the story of Charlie Chaplin. So like and subscribe our channel, because real stories build real English. Part 1. The Boy Who Was Born into Struggle. Let me take you back to April 16th, 1889, London, England. In a dark, tiny room in a poor district called Walworth, a boy named Charles Spencer Chaplin was born. His father was a singer. His mother was an actress. But don't let that fool you. They were not a happy, rich theater family. They were poor, broken, and almost always hungry. His father, Charles Sr., left them when Charlie was just a baby. He was an alcoholic. And his mother, Hannah, tried her best to earn a living by singing on stage. But she had mental health issues, and as time passed, those problems got worse. By the time Charlie was just 7 years old, he had already experienced more than most adults. No stable home, no proper school, sometimes no food. He and his older brother Sidney were sent to workhouses, dirty, cold shelters for poor children. Charlie described it as hell, waking up hungry, working all day, wearing ragged clothes, being laughed at by others. But inside that suffering, a tiny spark was being born, a spark of performance. Charlie would watch people carefully, the way they walked, the way they talked, the way they reacted. And then he would imitate them. It was his way of escaping reality. Even at that young age, he had one powerful gift. He could make people laugh. At age 5, something magical happened. One night, his mother was supposed to perform, but she lost her voice. The theater manager was panicking, so Hannah said, "Let my son try." Little Charlie walked onto the stage. He was small, scared. But once the audience laughed at his first joke, he transformed. He danced, he sang, he acted, he became someone else. From that moment, he knew. This stage, this audience, this laughter, it wasn't just entertainment. It was his purpose. But life wasn't kind to him. As he grew older, his mother's mental condition got worse. One day, she was taken away to a mental asylum. Charlie and Sidney were left alone. Again. It was one of the darkest moments of his life. I was a child, but suddenly I had no one. No father, no mother, just silence and cold beds. But Charlie didn't give up. He continued to find small roles in comedy plays. He joined a group called the 8 Lancashire Lads, a dancing troupe. From town to town, he would perform, sometimes sleeping on floors, eating bread with salt. But he kept going. He believed that someday someone would notice him. And finally, someone did. A man named Fred Carno, one of the biggest names in British comedy theater, saw Charlie's performance and said, "This boy's got something." Charlie joined Carno's company. And guess who else was in it? A young man named Stan Laurel, who would also become a comedy legend later. In 1910, at just 21 years old, Charlie was invited to America for a performance tour. He didn't know it then, but he had just stepped into the country that would make him a legend. He performed in front of thousands. Audiences loved him. Producers noticed him. And finally, he was offered a role in a film by Keystone Studios. It was a silent film, no dialogue, Just expressions, movement, and timing. And guess what? Charlie became a star, without even saying a word. Part 2. The Birth of the Tramp, and How the World Fell in Love with Silence. The year was 1914. Charlie Chaplin had just finished his first few short films in Hollywood. He was still new to the world of cinema. He was quiet, shy, and unsure about how movies worked. He didn't have big dreams yet. But inside him, something magical was building, something the world had never seen before. One day, the director at Keystone Studios asked him to wear something funny for a new comedy scene. Charlie went into the dressing room. He didn't know what to wear, but something inside him whispered, "Create someone unforgettable." So he grabbed a tight coat, a pair of oversized trousers, a small bowler hat, and a little cane. He added a tiny mustache, not too big, just enough to show emotion. And then he walked out, wobbly feet, funny walk, childlike face, sad but strong eyes. That was the moment the world met the tramp. He wasn't rich, he wasn't handsome, he wasn't perfect, but he had something more powerful: heart. The tramp was different from anything people had seen. Most actors in that time tried to look serious or rich. Charlie, as the tramp, looked poor, emotional, clumsy, and kind. But when people saw him on screen, they laughed, they cried, they saw themselves in him. In just a few months, Charlie became the most loved man in America. Movie theaters filled up. People waited for hours just to watch his 10-minute comedies. Newspapers wrote, "This silent clown says more with his eyes than others say with words." He was earning $150 per week, a good salary at that time. But very soon, he became so popular that he signed a new contract for $10,000 per week in 1916, plus a signing bonus of $150,000, making him the highest-paid actor in the world. A poor boy from London, now a millionaire with global fame. But Charlie wasn't just an actor, he was an artist. He didn't want to only perform. He wanted to direct, write, edit, and compose music too. And he did. Every movement, every scene, every tear, every laugh. He planned everything. He would sometimes do hundreds of takes for one scene until it was perfect. "I don't just act," he said. "I live the emotion. I live the pain. I live the laugh." His films weren't just funny. They were deep. They had meaning. They talked about poverty, love, hope, the struggles of the common man. Some of his greatest early works include 1. The Kid, 1921. A poor man finds and raises an abandoned child. The scenes are emotional, funny, heartbreaking, and beautiful. People cried in theaters. Charlie said, "This was not just a film. This was my childhood. That was me on screen." 2. The Gold Rush, 1925. The tramp goes to Alaska to find gold and fights hunger, snow, and loneliness. The famous eating the shoe scene became one of the most iconic comedy moments in cinema. 3. City Lights, 1931. A blind flower girl thinks the tramp is a rich man. He works hard, sacrifices, and even fights just to help her. The ending scene. When she touches his hand and realizes it was him all along, silent, no words, but pure magic. This is still considered one of the greatest endings in movie history. While the world was celebrating him, Charlie's personal life was becoming more difficult. He married young actresses, but his relationships never lasted. His first wife, Mildred Harris, was 16. Then he married Lita Gray, then Paulette Goddard, then Una O'Neill, who became his true love and stayed with him till the end. People started criticizing him. They said he was too rich, too powerful, and too political. But Charlie always said, I am not political. I am not rich. I am just a clown. Who believes in humanity? What made Charlie different? He didn't just want to make people laugh. He wanted to make them think. His films showed how machines were replacing people, how money was destroying emotions, how power was killing peace. And he did all of that, without saying a single word. He said, words are cheap. A look, a gesture, a tear. That's the real language of the heart. By the 1930s, Charlie Chaplin was more famous than any president, king, or movie star. He was a global icon. People in India, Africa, Russia, China, America all knew the tramp. They didn't need translation. They didn't need English. Because emotion is universal. Part 3. The Great Dictator, the Greatest Speech, and the Fall of a Legend. The world had fallen in love with the silent clown. But the world itself was no longer silent. A storm was coming. The year was 1939. War was rising in Europe. Hitler was growing stronger. Millions were in fear. And in the middle of this dark time, Charlie Chaplin, the man who made the world laugh, decided to do something no one expected. He finally spoke. After decades of silent films, Charlie stepped into a new world, sound films. But he didn't just speak. He roared. In 1940, Charlie wrote, directed, and starred in a film called The Great Dictator. He played 2 roles. 1, a poor Jewish barber, kind, silent, innocent. 2, a dictator named Adenoid Hinkle, a parody of Adolf Hitler. It was brave. It was dangerous. Hitler himself banned the film in Germany. But Charlie didn't care. I am not afraid. Silence is no longer enough. I must use my voice. And in the final scene of that movie, Charlie delivered what would become the most powerful speech in movie history. No music, no jokes. Just Charlie, standing alone, looking into the camera, speaking from his soul. He said, I'm sorry. I don't want to be an emperor. I should like to help everyone, Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. His voice trembled with emotion. He talked about greed, about power, about war, about humanity. You, the people, have the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful. Millions cried. Millions stood. Millions were reminded of hope. Charlie Chaplin, the man who never spoke, gave the speech of a lifetime. But not everyone clapped. In the 1940s and 50s, America became deeply suspicious. The government began chasing anyone they suspected of being a communist, even if they weren't. Charlie Chaplin, though never officially political, spoke often about peace, equality, and human rights. He didn't attend church regularly. He supported international unity. He questioned American power, and that made people nervous. Suddenly, the same country that made him a star started calling him a threat. In 1952, Charlie boarded a ship with his family to attend the London premiere of his new film Limelight. But while he was at sea, the U.S. government sent a message. Charlie Chaplin is no longer welcome in America. His re-entry visa is canceled. No trial, no explanation, just silence. Charlie later said, "The day I received that news, I cried. Not because I was banned, but because I had given America everything, and it gave me nothing back." He never lived in the United States again. Charlie moved to a quiet village called Corsier-sur-Vevey in Switzerland. He bought a beautiful house on a hill. There were no big parties, no red carpets, no flashing cameras, just peace, just nature. And his wife, Una O'Neill, his anchor, his love, his peace. They had 8 children, and Charlie finally became what he had never truly been before. A father, a husband, a man who could breathe. But inside him, the fire of creation still burned. He wrote music, he wrote books. He created a few more films, like A King in New York and A Countess from Hong Kong. But the world was changing fast. And Charlie was growing older. For 20 years, America ignored him. Until finally, the Academy Awards decided to honor him. In 1972, Charlie Chaplin was invited back to the United States. He was 82 years old. He returned, not as a threat, not as a joke, but as a legend. As he walked onto the stage at the Oscars, the entire audience stood. They clapped, and clapped, and clapped, for 12 minutes straight. Words are so futile, so feeble. I can only say, thank you. It was the longest standing ovation in Oscar history. The man who made the world laugh. The man who gave us silence. The man who gave us his soul. Was finally, truly loved again. Charlie spent his final years writing his autobiography, reflecting on his life. He said, "I don't regret my past. Every wound, every heartbreak, every hunger made me who I am." Part 4. The Legacy of Laughter. Why Charlie Chaplin Will Never Die. Charlie Chaplin died on Christmas Day, 1977. But he never really left us. His body may have been buried in a quiet village in Switzerland, but his spirit lives in every smile, in every child who dances in the rain, in every poor man who dreams of something better, in every person who laughs through their tears. This final chapter is not about his films, awards, or money. It's about something far more powerful: his legacy, his message, his meaning. Charlie Chaplin was not just an actor or comedian. He was a mirror of humanity. He showed us the pain of being poor, the beauty of kindness, the loneliness of being different, the courage to love in a world full of hate, and the strength to smile, even when everything is broken. He never needed fancy words. He never needed special effects. He just needed a look, a pause, a tiny bowler hat, and a heart that never gave up. Charlie's films are over 100 years old, but they still feel fresh. Why? Because pain hasn't changed. Loneliness hasn't changed. The struggle to survive, to be loved, to be seen, hasn't changed. When you watch The Kid, you feel the love of a father. When you watch Modern Times, you feel the pressure of a machine-driven world. When you watch City Lights, you understand what it means to give, even when you have nothing. "I am for people," Charlie once said. Always for people. That was the soul of every film he made. He didn't make movies for money. He made movies for hearts. Most people saw Charlie as the tramp, a clown. But inside, he was a thinker, a fighter, and a philosopher. He read books on politics, art, psychology, and history. He wrote poetry. He composed music for over 500 songs. He directed more than 80 films. He knew what he wanted and never accepted less. He was perfectionist, difficult to work with, sometimes even misunderstood. But that's because he cared too deeply. He once said, "I don't act emotions. I become them." When he cried on screen, it was not fake. It was the little boy from London, crying for his mother. It was the hungry child, begging for love. That's why it felt real. Because it was. Behind the jokes, behind the applause, behind the fame. Charlie lived with deep wounds. He saw his mother taken to a mental asylum. He was separated from his brother. He slept on streets, in shelters, in dirty rooms. He was thrown out of America without warning. He was betrayed by newspapers, lied about by politicians. He was misunderstood, mocked, and forgotten by the country he helped entertain. But he never became bitter. He never stopped believing in people. "You'll find that life is still worthwhile," he said, "if you just smile." Even in his darkest hours, he believed in the light. In his later years, Charlie became something he always longed for: a gentle father. He would wake up early and walk in the garden with his children. He would play the violin. He would sit by the lake and write in silence. He would laugh softly when his kids made faces. His wife, Una, 36 years younger than him, became his peace. She stayed by his side through everything: the exile, the pain, the aging body. When others left, she stayed. When others criticized, she believed. She was the home he never had. And for the first time in his life, Charlie didn't have to perform. He could just be. In 1977, on Christmas morning, the world woke up to the news: Charlie Chaplin is dead. But millions refused to believe it. How could he die? He was the tramp, the dreamer, the silent star. His funeral was quiet. No massive crowd, no red carpet, no media circus, just family, just peace. But weeks later, something strange happened. Thieves stole his body from the grave. Yes, really. They tried to demand ransom from his family, but Una refused to pay. She said, Charlie would have laughed at this. Eventually, the police found the coffin and reburied it, this time in concrete. Even in death, Charlie was part of a tragic comedy. Today, in the age of smartphones, fast edits, loud movies, and endless scrolling, Charlie Chaplin still matters, because he reminds us that simple is powerful, emotion is universal, laughter is survival, pain can be art, you can be broken, and still beautiful. He didn't teach us how to act, he taught us how to feel. He didn't teach us how to speak, he taught us how to connect. Beyond words. 10 life-changing lessons from Charlie Chaplin. 1. Poverty can be your power. Charlie was born into extreme poverty. Abandoned by his father, left to care for his mentally ill mother, and forced into workhouses as a child. But he didn't let poverty become an excuse. He used it to sharpen his observation, grow his empathy, and build his art. Lesson: your starting point doesn't define you. Your hunger to rise does. 2. Pain creates greatness. Charlie lost everything: home, security, family, at a very young age. But he transformed his deepest suffering into art. His sadness became comedy. His loneliness became characters. Lesson: don't hide your pain. Use it, shape it, turn it into something beautiful. 3. Emotion speaks louder than words. For years, Charlie didn't speak a single word on screen. And yet, the world understood him, because he spoke with his eyes, his heart, his body. Lesson: connection is not about language, it's about authenticity. Feel first, speak second. 4. You don't need to shout to be heard. In a world of noise, Charlie used silence to shake the world. He proved that stillness can scream, and a look can change a life. Lesson: you don't need to be loud to be powerful. You need to be true. 5. Stand for humanity, not popularity. When he finally spoke, in The Great Dictator, he didn't play it safe. He took a stand against Hitler and against injustice, even when it risked his fame and career. Lesson: your voice means nothing if it's only used when it's easy. Speak when it's hard. Stand when it's risky. 6. Rejection can be a gift. America, the country that made him a star, turned its back on him. But that rejection pushed him to a simpler, more peaceful life. where he found love, nature, and real happiness. Lesson: when one door slams, don't cry, listen. The silence is trying to guide you home. 7. Stay a child inside. Even at 70, Charlie played like a boy, danced with his children, and found joy in small things. He never let the world steal the wonder inside him. Lesson: don't grow up so much that you forget how to dream. Stay soft, stay silly, stay human. 8. Your legacy is not what you have. It's what you leave behind. Charlie died without social media, without modern fame, without viral clips. But even today, his films, values, and smile live on. Lesson: people won't remember your followers. They'll remember how you made them feel. 9. You don't need perfect tools. You need pure intention. Charlie had no money, no sound, no color, no special effects. But he had heart. And that was enough to change cinema forever. Lesson: don't wait for perfect conditions. Start with what you have. Create with what you feel. 10. Smile, no matter what. Charlie believed that even when life is breaking you, you can still smile. Because that smile might be the only hope someone else has today. Lesson: when everything falls apart, smile anyway. Not because life is perfect, but because you are still alive. Charlie Chaplin didn't just act. He taught the world how to live. He taught us that you don't need much to create something unforgettable, that you don't need to speak to be heard, that you don't need applause to have value, and that no matter where you begin, you can still become timeless. So if you're struggling, if you feel unseen, if you think you don't have what it takes, remember this: he was a poor boy with no shoes, and he made the world laugh without saying a single word. And you have dreams, you have a voice, you have a chance. Use it, don't wait. Create something, make people smile, and most of all, don't ever let your light die. To truly laugh, you must be able to take your pain and play with it. Charlie Chaplin. This was the story of Charlie Chaplin, the man who turned silence into a symphony. If this inspired you, repeat the lessons aloud to improve your English speaking. Listen again. Feel it. Speak it. Learn it. Subscribe to our channel for more powerful life stories and English learning through inspiration. Let your journey begin with a smile.